Welcome to the Elevate and Dommenate Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of dominance and submission, kink, and everything BDSM. I'm Goddess Arroya, here to challenge the myths, break down taboos, and empower you in your journey.
And I'm Mistress Odessa. We're here to educate, inform, and explore the truths of power exchange, consent, and the psychology behind kink. Because knowledge is the key to safe, fulfilling play.
And this is Orpheus Black. This isn't about play. It's about connection, growth, and understanding the deeper layers of dominance and submission. So whether you're a seasoned player or just beginning your journey, this is for you.
Let's elevate the conversation
And dominate the narrative.
Welcome to Elevate and
Dominate.
Greetings, lovely listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Elevate and Dommenate Podcast, where sensuality meets psychology, where seduction is the tool for growth, and where we are on a journey of power exchange and spiritual art. I'm here, your host, Goddess Arroya, joined by my co-hosts, Mistress Odessa and Sir Orpheus Black. Today, we are diving into the luscious mind behind one of the kink community's most beloved and enduring voices. From unsolicited dick pics that he did not send to award-winning interviews with icons of our scene, he is the host of the Authentically Kinky and proud owner of 7 Emmy Awards, but we know him simply as Hi ThereCatsuit.
Hi there.
Today, we are unzipping the catsuit and seeing what's authentically real under those spandex. So let's begin. But before we begin, this episode is brought to you by Dominate.com. And we would love for you to go right on over there and join our newsletter, explore the page, subscribe, and experience kink and each one of the hosts there. Also, join our Patreon, patreon.com/Elevate and Dommenate. You keep this podcast alive. So there it is. We would love to welcome you. Is it better to say Hi ThereCatsuit or Mr. Catsuit?
Catsuit's just fine.
Catsuit works for me. Okay, that works for me. So I would love to just dive right in. I know that the reason that you're on this show is because you actually interviewed one of our hosts here. And
Yes,
we
indeed.
would love to let her start it off, since you guys have somewhat of a good relationship already. You know each other. Let me let you dig on in, and I'm going to sit back and let Odessa take the reins right now.
I was honored enough to be a guest of a guest on Hi ThereCatsuits, one of the podcasts that he does, and it was for Clips for Sale, actually. So it was with the photographer Steven, and he asked, since it was like before the collaring, if I could pop on, and I call you Mr. Catsuit. I don't know. It's in my head. I don't care. So Mr. Catsuit was so gracious enough to let me join in, and we just had like a great time. We just like talked about experiences, and I was just like, you're so fascinating. Like, I would love to like get you on the other side of the screen almost, but you know what I mean.
Well, I am on the other side of this screen. You're over
For
there.
sure.
That's true. So yeah, and like, I don't know, it was just a great time, and I'm just so glad that we're able to make it happen. And thank you for unzipping the suit for us so we can get a little peek.
Absolutely. Well, actually, the secret is I have a cord here that
Oh.
unzips it because I live by myself. So
You know what?
the
That
things
is
you discover.
innovative. I might have to
Was-
do that.
It was absolutely great having you on the show, Odessa. And the thing that I loved is that every one of the shows that I do brings out stories. And we got to hear the story of you and Steven and just how it had developed. And I love being able to hear stories of how people come together. We are our stories. And
Yes.
no matter if they've been good stories or bad stories, we are the stories that have been so full of the beauty of all our adventures and all our journeys. And so I've been lucky enough to be able to share my journey with so many people and with over 350 episodes of the podcast, which I
Awesome.
still can't believe we've done over 5 years. It has been an absolute honor to be able to bring people's stories like yours to our audience. And the interesting thing about our audience is we are almost, I call ourselves the podcast of record of pro doms and content creators, because we will interview pro doms, content creators, educators, people within the kink and fetish community. And we do it in such a respectful way that it's gotten to the point where they listen to this podcast to learn about each other. And that's the greatest compliment I can get.
That's pretty awesome. So the podcast is called
So
Authentically Kinky. So
I have
my question is, what is the least authentic moment you've ever had in kink, and what did it teach you?
The least authentic moment was probably when I topped. I
Okay.
enjoyed topping. It was one that I was doing with my friends. A friend of mine is the one that I topped. She was somebody that I'd known for quite a while, and she just needed a good scene. And I said, well, for you, I'd be happy to do it. And it was a pretty amazing scene. I mean, I had friends in the dungeon. We kind of shut down the dungeon. Everybody was watching things that I was doing, like when I unhooked her cuffs from her ankles and her wrists. And I said, you've been free for about 5 minutes now. And she goes, what? I said, yeah, you've been free. And she goes, and she starts moving around. And right as she does that, I yank on a rope, and I put rope on each of the cuffs. And she immediately went spread eagle, and she went, oh my God.
Wow.
But
Sounds pretty authentic to me.
I know.
But topping wasn't me.
Mm.
I tried to do it most recently, probably about a year and a half ago, and it just doesn't feel right for me. I am a damsel through and through. I want to be stuck in a moment I can't get out of. I want to be yours and be reminded that I'm yours. And that's the authentic person that's there, the authentic damsel. And that's pretty much my pronoun. If somebody says, what do we call you? I said, call me damsel. That'll make me happy.
It's so
I
sweet.
love that. So something that your audience wouldn't expect to know about you.
I have a very interesting background because I was born into a Washington, D.C., not quite government family, but I have relatives who held cabinet positions. I think the thing that people may be surprised to know is just how many famous people I have met, whether as a sportscaster or growing up, because my dad was in the movie business. So we would have movie stars come to the house every now and then. I was literally a child of society, in very, very high privileged society. I had the old silver spoon going on. Not proud of it, to the point where when I turned 16 years old, I got a chance to be put on the social list, which means I get to go to all the debutante parties and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And I said, Mom and Dad, take me off of that. That doesn't feel like me. And I think that was the start of my authentic journey to who I am, as opposed to what society wanted to make me.
Yeah.
I love how you said that, because you said it just like you did in regards to topping, where you're like, that just doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel right. And you held on to that. You didn't like talk yourself out of it. And I think that's really inspirational, because like, regardless of in this world or not, like the fact that it's just like, that's just not really marinating with me or whatever. Yeah. Get the hell out of there. And I love that you did that. That's great.
And I used to be friends with people from both sides of the tracks. I mean, I lived in South Carolina during the summers a lot. And there was a really cool school named Fort Jackson, a public school. And it had some people that weren't very well-to-do and some people who were very well-to-do. And I dated one from each side of the tracks. And each one of them were going, well, how do you know them? Why would you know them? I said, because people are people. And I look at the person, the human that you are, not how much money you make or what kind of a house you live in. And so that's helped develop me. And the whole reason for my kindness classes is from a speech I gave about my mom's funeral, where there were people from the gardener of our next door neighbors to the checker at Piggly Wiggly to the grandchildren of the President of the United States. And she treated them all exactly the same. And that's what I've tried to do my whole life is I don't care what your status is. You're a human and I'm going to treat you the same way I treat anybody else.
Well, that is definitely authentic.
Mistress Alexandra Balance, who's the person who's doing the Atlanta, I'm going to Atlanta in a couple of weeks. The Athens Femdom Gala actually was able to pick up my Restream and my Calendly, which are the two things I needed to actually continue the show. So.
Oh, nice.
It was really nice.
I'm
We're back.
We got Orpheus back.
Here, before you get started, let me do my Orpheus imitation. Now Orpheus
Now
is
he
going to
just
be
got to get his mic to work.
Yep.
You can't hear me?
Now I can hear
There
you.
we go.
Here, yay.
Okay.
Did you like your impersonation?
I did like my impersonation. I'm having so much trouble today. I'm just going to hang out
We got to get you unfrozen. What is it today?
No, today. Oh,
Okay, so now we are back. All right. Okay, so I have a funny question. If your catsuit could talk, what stories would it tell? And should we be scared?
It would tell you two different stories from two different parts of my life.
Okay.
If my catsuit from my teenage years could talk, it would tell you of a young man who wasn't sure why their catsuit was turning them on and why they were wearing them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The catsuit will talk about how it covered them in skin-tight goodness and how that turned him on all the time. And the idea of being tied up in a catsuit was the ultimate fantasy.
Mm.
Now, if the catsuit today could talk, it would tell you that it is the mode of comfort that I have that keeps me from being anxious. It is the thing that provides me my armor to be my authentic self, because while there could be a very scared human on the inside, when the catsuit is worn, I become more confident than I ever have been and can live as my authentic self.
I love that.
Now, depending upon which catsuit is talking, though.
How many do you think you have?
I know how many I have. I have currently 19.
Okay.
Ooh.
Most of them are from a wonderful company called HithereCatsuit. This is one of theirs, although the cat isn't there. They custom make them for me. They were nice enough to actually give me 3 catsuits custom made because I wore their outfits all over the country while presenting. And I love their catsuits. I tried to get my first latex catsuit and the sizing didn't work at all. I actually have it up on FetLife for sale right now. Never been worn. But I was actually 5 different sizes for Libidex. I wasn't a 3X. I was a X body, a X arms, an extra large legs. And
wow.
my neck was like 2X. So I was 5 different sizes, and their 3X just did not work with me. So I don't have a latex catsuit yet, but that is definitely something that I'm going to have to get before I go to Athens, because you don't show up at a Femdom Gala without having latex. That's not good form.
Orpheus is allergic to latex.
Absolutely.
You are?
Absolutely.
You're allergic to latex? Oh, we did talk about that because of the pasties, right?
Yeah. I always have a burn after I wear face, so I like to wear the heart-shaped ones, so at least it looks cute after.
I didn't wear mine tonight. I'm sorry.
That happened to me. I think I had put some from the studio. I put some latex tape across my breast. And when I got home, I was like, why do they hurt like this? And it literally peeled off skin. Like, not for me. But I don't think I used to be allergic to latex back in the day, but I don't think so now because I love to touch it. It is like one of my favorite things to do.
It was so much fun going through the Orlando airport and having them go. And it wasn't Orlando. Where was it? I think it was St. Petersburg, actually, where they're going, do you have some sort of liquid in your bag? And I went, no. And they open it up and they're 2 fake breasts. And I go, yeah, my boobs. Did you think my boobs were bombs? No.
Why did they think it was liquid? I guess
because the silicone just created, yeah.
Was it one of those ones that you put over your neck and it like
the boobs? No, there were 2 boobs. As a matter of fact, it's funny. When I take them to a dungeon, I go, hey, have you ever wanted to catch a boob? And I throw it at somebody and they go, whoa. They're like, oh my God, it's got a nipple and everything. I go, yes, it does.
Gosh, okay.
So can you go like dive into a little bit more? Because I know you said that I almost would like a clarification too, because you said the teenage catsuit. So did you actually start wearing catsuits when you were that's so cool.
They were actually leotards and tights back then.
Okay.
But eventually I would get, actually leotards and tights were all I wore pretty much until college for my fetish. And then I discovered one-piece unitards, and then obviously those became catsuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I discovered a pair of my sister's tights in the storage room, put them on, and they instantly made me feel so much different. I never had body dysmorphia, but I always dreamed of a life where I'd be able to grow up and wear my leotards and tights or whatever spandex around the house and never have to worry about it. Well, look at me. I'm wearing a catsuit in my apartment in 2025. And so I guess I'm living out my dream. My dream would be to have somebody else in a catsuit here. That would be my actual dream. But the feeling of sheer energy pantyhose, the old legs pantyhose, they had a very special feeling for me. And then when Flexitard
on that one, you're going way back on that one.
Yes, I am. And then there was a type of leotards and tights and unitards called Flexitard, which was what Pat Benatar would wear in concert. She was known for wearing Flexitards. And those were so soft, and that's what really got me into the unitards and catsuits. As I said, they were a sexual thing back in those days, and now they've turned into something that is really it's the thing I wear when I'm feeling anxious. It's the thing I wear to calm down at the end of a really tough day, and it's just a very special thing that I have.
I love it because it reminds me of spirituality. It's like instead of like grabbing maybe like a crystal or like a other religious thing, whatever those people do, but like it's just it's something that like can center you and calm you down and like really bring you back to who you are, like at the center of yourself. So it sounds like it's also like a spiritual journey.
And that is why kink, when I am tied while wearing one, or I am restrained while I'm wearing one, it just makes it into the next level. What a lot of people don't realize is that they are sensation amplifiers. If you touch a catsuit, like right here, I'm feeling a lot more than where my finger is hitting. I'm actually feeling the area of like 3 fingers going by because it's tugging on the material as it goes by.
Where was that? Right here?
Or no, don't get me started there.
And you caught on quick.
Yeah. I like nipple play a little bit too much. But the other thing is that if you wear 2 really like shiny catsuits that go together, they will slip on each other, and it's like having oil wrestling without any of the mess. And it is amazing. I actually had a scene with an amazing woman, and she was wearing a full spandex catsuit. I was wearing my spandex catsuit, and we slid all over each other. And before I knew it, she was having orgasms from just the feeling of sliding up and down my body.
Wow.
And I was like, I did that? Really? Good. There we go.
You're welcome.
Liked it.
So I always enjoy playing spandex to spandex, that's for sure.
That's better than skin on skin to you.
Now that gets into the catsuit a little bit.
Yeah.
I went to Naughty Revival 3 years ago, and a woman was dressed in a full Zentai bedazzled catsuit, and she danced and she took it off and she kicked off her heels and got the whole catsuit off and was wearing pasties and a G-string. And I turned to my friend next to me and I said, if only she did that act backwards, it would be perfect. So yes,
she's putting on the catsuit. You're like, yes,
I do. A woman in a catsuit is the most sexy thing to me ever.
Okay.
I really get amazed when I do skin to skin touching because I don't do it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a sexually charged person, although I recently had a scene where somebody started to bring that out of me, and it was almost scary for me. Because I had allowed myself the joy of just allowing myself to do that. And so it was really different, and we're going to explore it a little bit more. But my scenes have never been about getting off. They've always been about being in the moment and just feeling the connection between two people. I call kink the world that exists when the rest of the world goes away when you're in it.
Okay, I like that.
And when I feel that connection, whether it be through impact or restraint or conversation or mindfuckery or anything like that, that's my sweet spot. That is what I love. Send me home with a memory bruise and I'll thank you all week.
You know, that is so interesting that you say that, because I've noticed that, you know, sometimes I'll have people that'll contact me and they will be so into the conversation. We'll talk, you know, sometimes we'll talk more than once. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to book. And it seems like sometimes that is the kink for them. The conversation is the kink. The connection, or just knowing that I'm not a stone cold bitch. Like I don't know. It's like, it's all done. The scene's done. Like it's strange to me sometimes where I notice that the kink was just the whole thing. Sometimes even just the story. They'll send a long story, and then you read the story and send the message back, and it's like, what was that about? And they don't respond. I'm like, oh, they just wanted me to read their story. You know, like that was the kink. You know,
I think that some of it is reaching out for connection.
Yeah,
and wanting to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest thing anyone can do for me is see me. See the true damsel that I am. See the kind person that I am.
Mm-hmm.
See the person that genuinely wants to do what is best for you. And I can put my own needs aside to bring you joy, to allow you to do what you want to do. So many of my negotiations, they go, what do you want to do? I said, what brings you joy? What is something you've been wanting to do that you haven't had a chance to do? And people are taken aback by that, because some people are looking for a kink dispenser. Some people want to go push A12 and be hit with a flogger. You know, it doesn't work that way. It's how you build the scene together. How as a bottom you trust the top. How as a person you allow the story to go. I teach in my kindness classes this quality. Expectations are what most people have. Expectations are things that usually let people down. And that is because expectations are a story that has been written in your mind before it even happens.
Yeah.
You've already figured out how the whole thing's going to go. And if it doesn't go exactly that way or better, you're going to be disappointed. It's better to have anticipations.
Mm-hmm.
Anticipations have not been written yet. Anticipations allow all the different possibilities to be there. Anticipations allow you to accept the gift that is being given to you and respond with an even bigger gift back.
Mm.
And if you quit having those expectations for scenes or for even dates or anything, if you can take the expectation out of your mind and have anticipations, you'll find you will lead a happier life.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're just expecting everything to happen, and here's the prime example of that. This was about 8 years ago. I came to a dungeon here in Cincinnati, and I was going to have a really heavy impact scene because I'd just gotten into impact. And I had had a crappy week at work. It was just so awful. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to get my butt beat, to get tied to a cross, believe that somebody's going to do this with me. And what do you mean she got in a car accident?
Oh, wow.
You see what I had done? I had put it in my mind that all this was going to happen, but didn't know the variable that something was going to happen beforehand. So what did that do to me? That devastated me. That sent me crying, and that sent all the other people going, why are you crying? It's just a scene. I said, because I really needed it. That's why. And then somebody says, well, you're trying to guilt me into playing with you. I said, no, I'm just genuinely sad of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that led me down a really, really black hole that eventually led to me to have to get some outpatient counseling because I had too many cognitive distortions I was doing. Nobody understands me. Everybody's against me. You know how those go, the black and white of everything. And finding what the middle was allowed me to realize that the expectations were what was killing me, and I needed to be open to everything.
What are some of the ways that you eliminated those expectations? What are some of your alternative ways of thinking?
A lot of it had to do with the fact that it was sometimes difficult for me to find a play partner, and that I had to work so hard to get every single scene. Now, in these times, I have people who want to play with me, and it kind of blows my mind. You want to play with me? Oh, okay. Well, I was talking to Odessa, a pro dom from Cleveland, who I had on my podcast, who's going to be on this week's show, as a matter of fact, was going, hey, I'm going to be at the party you're going to. What kind of scene you want to do? You want to what? Sure. Well, I don't know what makes you happy, but I remember that, I love being a damsel and having villains take me down. And I know you love things like interrogation. And she goes, now you're talking. So that was me leaning into what she loves to do, telling her what I love. And then together we could come up with something. But in the past, it would have been, I'm going to a party and I have no idea if anybody's going to play with me. And my expectation was in my head that nobody was going to. And you can imagine the depression I'd come home if nobody did.
Yeah. That's something I never really think about. There are people that want to have scenes and they come there and out of fear, they don't talk to anyone, or they don't know exactly how to begin the process of negotiation or anything. And I think sometimes I haven't really had people like that at the studio because I find it easier to talk to someone that's sitting there by themselves. Just walk over to them and talk to them. But that has to be something that, mentally will mess with you if you're not at a party and there's a whole bunch of people and no one talks to you.
Yeah, I have said one of the kindest things you can do is if you ever see a whiteboard where people are looking for scenes, or you get involved in a thread like before a conference of top seeking bottoms, bottom seeking tops, one of the kindest things you can do is just put yourself on one of those to say that I am open to new experiences. Or would you like a new experience? Maybe we can work out something together. And I can't tell you how many times I've put myself on that and nobody's responded. But I keep doing it because I want to show that I am open. And the reason that a lot of people don't reply to them is sadly because men are men. Sorry, Orpheus. Sadly, a lot people
since
will
we-
always be thinking that you're after one thing and one thing only. I'm just after a beautiful scene with connection with somebody that makes us both happy. And nothing has to do with a happy ending at all. Orpheus, you were about to say something and I interrupted.
No, I just want to say that was a very poignant way of talking about something that is very pervasive, which is loneliness within the framework of kink. You know what I mean? I think that some of the outreach that we do as podcasters, as people who are talking about our experience in some way, they get to live vicariously through us, also giving them an opportunity to have connection, even if it's virtual, and your podcast does do that. This podcast does that. It helps. It really does help with this idea of, with people who don't have access or are too scared to access or don't know how to, or they have social anxiety issues, or they just don't know. They're just too terrified to kind of join in. My question to you would be, if you had one tip other than the one that you provided for the person who's brand new trying to get into the kink community, what would it be?
Go to Munches. Don't think that FetLife is going to get you your first scene. When people see you and people talk to you, they have an opportunity to see who you are. FetLife doesn't give that to you. Any sort of social media will not give that to you. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me and go, "You do so many amazing things. How do I be like you?" And I said, well, if you were like me when I started, you wouldn't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Because you'd be scared that nobody wants to play with you, which is kind of what you feel right now. Mm-hmm. You have to meet people in person. You have to meet people where they are. Yeah. Now, I will say that I've written, and because I am pardon my ego blowing up here, I am a good writer. So I am able to give respectful introductions of myself to people if we're about to go to a conference. Like the first conference I ever taught at was Kinky College in Chicago. And I saw a few people that really resonated in the way that they presented themselves. So I said, this is a respectful introduction that comes with no expectations. I just wanted to introduce myself in hopes that there might be something that connects us. And sure enough, there were two people at Kinky College who said, "I liked the way you introduce yourself. Would you like to play?" And I said, absolutely. And I actually put my name on the whiteboard, and another amazing dom said, "I would like to play with you, Catsuit. I went to your class and I found it absolutely amazing and love your energy. And I would like to see what it's like to play with that energy."
I love that.
And that's when you make yourself open and you make yourself available for the possibilities. And you just, I will on May 12th turn 62 years old. And that scares me a little bit because I don't know how many good years I have left. I'm hoping I have quite a few. Mm-hmm. But the stuff that I'm doing at my age right now, the stringent hog ties that I'm doing at my age right now, the impact that I'm taking right now where people go, "How in the hell did you do that?" I said, "I don't know any better." Mm-hmm. It's opening yourself up for the possibilities, and you have to meet people to do that. You have to see them. You can't go into a Munches a fake person and putting on some sort of airs. They have to see who you truly are. Now that people are seeing me, I'm having all these amazing possibilities come to me, and it took a lot of time to get there.
Where are you located in Los Angeles?
No, I'm in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati,
where we have 0 safe places to play.
Really?
Yeah, there are a couple of places that are still open, but I don't feel safe going into them just because of some of the predatory things that have happened in those spaces. And so that's why I'm on the road nearly every single week. Like this week, I'm at home because I work for the local Major League Soccer team in their game presentation. So I have a game this week, but the next week, I'm going to Cleveland. Then I go to Atlanta. Then I come home. Then I go to New York City in a couple weeks after that. Then Minneapolis. I'm teaching in Albany and Pittsburgh this summer. Going to be at FetishCon for 10 days, hopefully shooting 6 days of content and then having one hell of a conference. And then I'm going to the culmination of my travels this year is going to be a 12-day trip to Athens, Greece.
Wow.
Where I was invited by Mistress Alexandra Balance, who is the organizer of the Athens Femdom Gala, to come do the interviews of the pro-doms.
Awesome.
Because she knew I could present them in a light that they never felt before. And then she gave me the highest honor of all, and that is I will be able to teach my kindness class to 125 pro-doms.
Wow.
Awesome.
And they're going to hear something that they would never expect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am so looking forward to that. I'm getting more and more excited by the day. Been listening to, my Spotify is over here to my right. The playlist is Greek pop because I'm just trying to get used to it.
You're trying to get your mind ready and get your body right. I love that. So you've mastered media. You've been in the business for quite some time. Can you give us a little more background on that?
Sure. I was a sportscaster and sports producer for 35 years. Worked for and with teams like the Seattle Supersonics, which is where I got my big break. Also did a show for the Washington NFL team, now known as the Commanders. They weren't known as that when I worked with them. Worked with a lot of universities, a lot of major conferences, appeared on ESPN, Fox, local regionals, and was most known for being able to take an idea for a television show and make it happen. And so I took no less than a dozen shows from concept through production. Awesome. And made them into successful series. And my 7 Emmy Awards are all in the same category, which is Outstanding Sports Series. From anything to a magazine show for the Supersonics to a football documentary series to a show that was the positive and inspirational stories that would happen in sports in the Pacific Northwest, which was my favorite show to do. And so my communication and my public speaking and my ability to talk to a camera and not worry so much about how I'm looking. I think a lot of that helped by doing 2.5 years of professional wrestling that aired on ESPN every day at 4:00.
Wow, you have done a lot of things.
Yeah.
In your catsuit, I'm taking.
Wait. Not in my catsuit. I had always been a professional wrestling fan. And I said to the people who were doing the show, which was World Class Championship Wrestling at the time, that turned into USWA, I said, if you ever need a vacation announcer, vacation fill-in, I'd love to come out for a couple of weeks and just be the fill-in. Well, I went in to be the fill-in and discovered that Mark Lawrence had retired. So they said, can you stick around? We know you have your condo here in Dallas. Can you stick around and be our new host? And so what I thought was going to be 2 weeks ended up being 2.5 years.
Wow.
So got to work with some amazing people. I think probably the most famous person I worked with I was the announcer for the first feud between gentleman Chris Adams and newcomer named Stunning Steve Austin.
I like Steve Austin.
Back when he had long blonde hair and wore rainbow tights.
Wow.
And he didn't quite talk like this yet.
I got a question for you. So as you were out in the public eye, you were highly visible, you were running around in these crowds, you were always kinky. Did you recognize kink in other people in your everyday life? Did you meet other people who were maybe unconsciously kinky without outing anyone? but is that something that you recognized in others?
Well, for 10 years, I was a roller derby announcer. Roller derby girls are the only ones that love to take pictures of their bruises and put them on social media.
Yeah.
Right.
I've always told people who are kinky, just say you're playing roller derby. Everybody will believe you.
That's pretty smart.
But I think there was a lot.
I think
there was a lot of kink when it came to roller derby.
Yeah, definitely.
I am sure there was, especially because they love to like push up against the wall. When I was young, I think there was a show that I watched or a movie, and it really, really made me want to do roller derby because I did like the idea of rolling in a circle and then pushing people off to the side. Like I love that. So yeah, I could see that being kinky.
Well, the LA T-Birds were the most famous roller derby team of all time.
Is that the team you work with?
No, I didn't work with the T-Bird. No, I was in the rebirth of roller derby. I worked with teams in Seattle, 2 teams in Dallas, and then most recently was the voice of Akron roller derby and Little Steel, which is Youngstown, Ohio. But when I came to Cincinnati, I actually did a tournament a couple years ago and realized that my mind doesn't work as fast as it normally does. You've heard me hesitating a lot because it's late here on the eastern side of the world.
Yeah, it's almost 11 there.
Yeah, so it doesn't quite work and I don't sound as good as I normally do because I'm trying to find words. So I left the announcing business, although I absolutely love it. But teaching and experiencing kink is what my life is about right now. It is what I am genuinely living for. And not only for myself, but to give other people an opportunity and try to remove the stigma. I mean, I had a lady on the show tonight, and they are the head of a law firm that specializes in representing sex workers, pro-doms, and content creators.
We need to get that information to put it up, but that would be great information to share with our viewers.
And
a good resource.
Yeah. And we talked about the moving targets, and we talked about religion and politics. We got into everything that you don't want to talk about. But we also finished up about the fact that she loves rope. Absolutely. Yes, please.
I need to know, did you ever get topped by any of the roller derby?
No, I didn't. I didn't have a roller derby top. I just knew they were. Plus, when I did roller derby, I was married to a very vanilla woman who had zero fantasy life.
Really?
I mean, yeah.
That's
so
horrible.
when we played a game of Never Have I Ever during COVID. This was after I had left her, and somebody said, "Never have I ever had sex in other than the missionary position." And I went,
Whoa.
Yeah. So, yeah, and she totally shamed my kinks. I mean, I wore a catsuit on one of our first dates, and she said, "I never want to see you in that thing again." And I still married her and stayed married to her for 20 years.
How did you marry her?
Because honestly, I was so desperate to not be lonely anymore.
Get it.
And she seemed like a compatible person. And I figured, see, this is one of the things that in my life I'm not going to call it disappointing because I love my kink now.
Mm-hmm.
But because my first orgasms all had to do with fetish and seeing women in skin tight outfits, my first 7 orgasms occurred and I didn't know what they were other than that I was watching Catwoman or Batgirl or Emma Peel of the Avengers. And I had an orgasm, but I didn't know what it was. So growing up not knowing what that was, which was silly of a person who's 12 years old, but I just didn't know.
Yeah, that's honest.
And then to try to be turned on by somebody who's not wearing something like that, to be turned on by somebody who doesn't have the feeling of, I mean, I used to date a girl and pray she wore pantyhose so I'd have something to actually sexually stimulate me.
Wow. That's
And
very
so
interesting.
I've lived most of my life as a non-sexual being because I never could have normal sex.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I had a scene over the weekend, this past weekend, and suddenly I started feeling turned on, and she leaned into that.
Mm.
She wanted me to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little scared, but at the same time, I went, oh my God, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm allowing myself to enjoy it. And she says, we're going to work on that because you deserve to have that.
Yeah.
So I love my moments in kink, but if something else can be added to it later, that would be great. I'm not going to be somebody who looks to get off first and have kink second. Kink is always going to be my first priority.
I love that.
Because a good scene is better than sex for me. It just is.
I think that we also need to get rid of this idea about normal sex, right? There's no normal, there's this kind of traditional idea that's been forced on us that sex is supposed to look like this, right? But that's not what it looks like for everybody. And we are living proof of that, right?
Orpheus,
Sex.
I'm going to challenge you with one here.
Wait, let me finish.
Please do.
To me, sex is the way with which we satiate our desires. Because oftentimes we conflate sex, specifically normal sex, with intercourse, with penetration. And there are many people who don't require that in order to satiate their desires.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to go. But please go for it, Mr. Catsuit.
So you mentioned the word normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this in my class.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that by adding one word before that word normal, that you can change the way you see yourself and how other people see you?
Go for it.
The word is my.
My normal.
My normal is I wear catsuits that help me feel less anxious and make me feel more confident in a kink scene. Mm-hmm. My normal is a little boy who didn't understand what an orgasm was and was turned on by Catwoman and Batgirl to the point where he couldn't have normal sex for most of his life. Wow. My normal is someone who is lonely so very much of the time in my apartment here that I have to get into a car or a plane to go see people to experience kink with. You can't understand my normal because my normal belongs to me.
Right.
You can't put your normal and compare it to my normal because my normal is mine. Your normal is yours, and your normal can't judge my normal because you don't understand.
Okay, so now I got to push back on this because philosophy is my wheelhouse, right? Mm-hmm. Anytime you have multiple norms, that means there is no normal, right? If you have a norm, I have a norm, she has a norm, they have a norm, there is no normal. And also, for young people, like you said, relegating a person to any type of norm really takes away their ability to transition and have different tastes from when they were young to when they die. Sexuality is not stagnant, and yet that word normal locks us into a paradigm where we can't grow. I had a person recently say, I don't think I could drop into a scene because sex is supposed to go from this arc, from here to here. Why? She's like, that's normal. And I'm like, no, that is not normal. Normal is what you create between two people. There's my way of being with you right now, and there's nothing else. Tomorrow will be another way of being with you. The next day will be another way of being with you. The next way will be another way of being with you. So to me, there is no normal. There is customary, but there is no normal. There's societal indoctrination and cultivation, but I never want to lock any of my clients or any of my students into a paradigm of thinking that sexuality doesn't involve evolution.
I will give you an example from the sports casting world, of all things. I was working with a set of German producers who came to Seattle to cover Detlef Schrempf, who played for the Sonics.
That is.
And we were putting together a highlight package. And the producer says, we must start with the establishing shot. I said, okay, well, we'll put an establishing shot. Then we show the wide shot. I went, okay. Then we can show a close-up. And then we go back to a wide shot. And I said, why are you doing that? I mean, people want to see faces. People want to feel connected with the athletes. And showing them a wide shot doesn't do that. And he goes, but that's the way we've always been taught.
Absolutely.
I said, what would happen if you sent your executive producer a highlight package that was so totally different than anything you'd ever sent? And he goes, I'm willing to try that. So we put together a package in what I would call my style, which is I used to do a lot of music videos and fast cuts and kind of like how they do a lot of stuff today. He sent it back and he said, my producer didn't quite understand, but it was so much better than anything he'd seen. If people keep doing the exact same thing, the exact same way, they don't open themselves up to the possibility of something that can be so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Earth, Wind, and Fire, the guy who wrote I can't remember his name, wrote a lot of the songs for Earth, Wind, and Fire, said style, it will destroys creativity because you get so busy trying to be in a style of being that it limits your creativity, it limits your flexibility, it limits your ability to expand and grow. And so that's why I don't put like Dom or Master Orpheus Black. Right? I don't want to be locked into a paradigm. I try and take the broadest thing here, which is guru for me, and I still try to break out of those sociological norms because I always want to be in this place where I'm open to be able to engage in whatever behavior feels good to me at that moment. Right? Whatever that looks like. I want to wear whatever feels good. And sometimes we all have our go-to. You got your catsuit, I got my beads and everything. We all have that, right? But in the event, I like to say it's not sexuality, it's contextuality. Within the context, if the context is right, you're right, we're right, I'm ready. I'll go with it, because it's about being in context. The other thing that I want to bring this back to that you said that I thought was very compelling, where you were saying I wanted to be seen. But I would add that you want to be seen in context. You want to be seen in your catsuit. You want to be seen in your way of being. You want to be seen as you are, not as you present to the world, but as you are. Right? That's context. No facts exist without context, and we don't exist without context. I want to be seen like this, right? In this context. What are your thoughts or feelings about that?
I totally agree with everything you just said. My being seen is when people don't try to make me into somebody else. It goes back to when I worked at a major university, and this was 14 years ago. I was a huge advocate of women's sports. I was supposed to work for all the sports, football being the most important, men's basketball being the second most important. But John, why are you spending so much time working on all the women's sports? They don't bring in the revenue. I said, but they work just as hard as everyone else does. Yeah. So I'm going to give them my best. And wouldn't you know that a woman administrator took that as me having an agenda of wanting to do something with the female athletes, when I simply wanted to shine a beautiful spotlight on the hard work and dedication they give to their sports and the passion that they have that the guys couldn't touch. And so after the games, the athletes would come up. Some of them come up, give me a big hug. John, thank you for making us look so good. And people were like, why is he hugging the athletes? Well, they were hugging me. And this became a huge controversy because it happened around the time that the Jerry Sandusky thing came out at Penn State. And why are you touching another person? And so they made an edict in the athletic department that no staff member shall touch another person other than giving them a high five.
Wow.
But here's what they forgot, that standing outside of the locker room of every Husky game, I gave away the university, but it could be one of many universities, but this one happened to be in the Pacific Northwest. So you could figure that one out. Outside their locker room stood a man who would hug every athlete coming out, male or female, didn't matter. He would say an inspirational word to them before they went out of the court. Didn't matter who they were, didn't matter what race they were, didn't matter what background they were, because the 88-year-old Tuskegee airman known as George Hickman was inspiring every single one of them, and they wanted to connect with him.
Mm.
And so the athletes basically said, we don't give a damn about your rules. George is going to hug us, and we're going to hug George.
Mm.
And that became a huge thing because it was, we can't have any inappropriate touching. But somebody was putting somebody's perspective, context, as you said, on somebody's action, thinking that they know what they're thinking. Unless you have ESP and not ESPN, you can't figure out what people are thinking before they think it.
That is true. So what I want to know is, because we are coming to our closing, what do you want to leave behind in this community? What is the legacy you're building with your voice, your vulnerability, and your presence?
I think what I want to leave behind is that people can be their authentic self and never be scared of being that. It takes kindness to others. It takes kindness to yourself. And if I can leave the legacy of having the stigma going away from kink by making and allowing people to understand that it's not kinky sex, it's kink. People can add sex to it, but kink is the connection between two people engaging in a way that they can bring out their hopes, their fears, their joys, and their loves. And if I can help people get there and allow themselves to accept themselves as their authentic selves, I think I've done my job. But I'm never going to convince somebody to actually do that. I'm just going to give them the tools to see themselves like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I do that every day is I'm still trying to see myself.
I love it. So we had a little technical difficulties with Orpheus's computer, but we did get a great wealth of information and questions from him. And just to close, I just want to say, did you have anything that you wanted to add, Odessa, before I close up the show?
I just think that was so beautiful what you just said. Like, that's just, I already knew you were a beautiful human being, but it just even shines even more. Like, you have such a good heart, and you can tell. And anyone who tried to take that away from you or put some other kind of filter on it for whatever reason, shame on them. I'm so happy to have met you, and that the world has you, especially the world of kink. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. That means the world to me.
Well, in closing, I would like to say to be authentic in this world is to risk being truly seen. And our guest today has reminded us that the path to power, whether on camera or on your knees, starts with the truth. And thank you, Mr. Catsuit, or Hi ThereCatsuit, for showing us what it means to unzip the mask and reveal your soul underneath. Please let everyone know where they can find you. What platforms you are on currently, and any other information you'd like to share.
Absolutely. To find me on social media anywhere, it's simple. It's Hi ThereCatsuit, whether it be on Instagram, Blue Sky, which I prefer more than Twitter, but I will use Twitter to
I'm on there.
just, I say things, but I hate Elon's guts.
You're not alone.
The podcast is Authentically Kinky. It is available on Spotify. If you're searching Authentically Kinky, look for the white logo, because that is the one that has our most recent ones.
Okay.
No, that's my Catsuit logo.
Yeah, anyway.
That's my Catsuit logo. Yeah, it's got a white logo that says Authentically Kinky with an AK stylized on it.
Okay.
And that is the most recent set of shows, because we were on, and the people who hosted our podcast literally disappeared. So we lost our old show and had to rebuild. So that's why I say look at that. We're also on YouTube at Authentically Kinky Podcast, and we do a lot more video shows than we do audio. So it's a lot of fun. I'm doing a lot of on location shows where I actually go to people's dungeons or places and do interviews. And usually they are interactive. So I find myself getting kidnapped or whatever while I do the interview, and it's a lot of fun. But you can find us on Instagram at Authentically Kinky Podcast, and on Blue Sky, we're authenticallykinky.bsky.social, and on the thing that he wants us to call by a single letter, it's Auth Kinky Pod. And you can find me on FetLife as Hi ThereCatsuit. You're welcome to follow me. I'd like to reserve the people that I've actually talked to and met to be my friends, but I love speaking with anybody, and especially the listeners. They're always surprised that I answer them straight back. Because
I love that. Well, to everyone out there, please follow us on all platforms, and do not forget to follow us on patreon.com/elevate and dominate. And also visit the website dommenate.com, DOMMENATE.com, and find out more information about the podcast. And there is Orpheus. We were just going to close it up right here. And before we finish that, I would love to tell everyone, just don't forget that elevation begins at the edge of surrender. Until next time, keep rising, keep serving, and keep it dominant. And as always, you don't know this, but Catsuit, we want to say tits up. So go on and bring those tits up.
But for the shoe.
Thank you so very much for being a guest on the Elevate and Dominate podcast. We would love to definitely collaborate with you and maybe come on to your podcast whenever we have a chance as well. All right? Thank you so much. Hold on one second. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Elevate and Dominate podcast. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Stay tuned every other week as we continue to unravel the mysteries of dominance and submission with a twist. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates, and share your thoughts using hashtag Elevate and DOMMENATE. Until next time, embrace your desires, explore the unknown, and always remember, power is meant to be shared.